involving welding in the metal shop and Arduino and designing it all out in CAD and Bridge, which is our design and tech lab. And then people can take classes in a formal level, either individually or in groups, or project-based classes here that are designed to help them facilitate their project or idea here at ADX. And the kind of cool part about this to me is that people will come in, they'll take classes, and then maybe a year later, at some point, they'll end up teaching the very same class to the next round of members that are joining ADX. And out of all this, we've got our fabrication services building things like this crazy 4-story tall chandelier. And then we only have one fabrication person full time. But then what we do is we'll have we've identified the skills of hundreds and hundreds of people who are currently or previously working out of the space, and we literally hire out of membership. So this guy came to us with this crazy ass idea for a 4-story tall, like light and sound beaming, motion sensing chandelier. And he's a genius programmer, amazing designer. And so he came to ADX and we worked with him using the skills around our building on improving and solidifying the actual physical design, the process for building something like this, because it turns out hanging, a bunch of heavy acrylic, aluminum, and light parts off of strings that are that tall presents some safety and engineering challenges. And then we worked with him to prototype parts on this experimental type of acrylic that literally no other company in town would even come near that job with a 10-foot pole. And then once we finally got it all working together and the light sort of beaming around properly through the acrylic, we put out a call to our team, and we were able to drop 20, 30 people on top of this project with a diverse set of skills virtually overnight. The cool thing about this is that all of these people were working together the whole time. So it's like people came in as members, took classes, taught each other classes, joined our fabrication team, often with just the skills that they had learned here, and built this incredible project that was designed by a community member in Portland, and then was actually shipped across the country. So I think that's a very classic ADX story in that we hadn't done anything like it before, but we brought people together to work together and collaborate around the problem solving, and accomplished this pretty damn incredible thing. So I think starting to see some questions pop up in here that I can address, but I think that's a very good example of localizing in terms of there's a lot of design and build needs here. There's a lot of need for shared tooling here. And then we've been adding a lot of design, Autodesk, and Arduino stuff here recently because we're seeing a lot of demand for that now. And I see, and I'm sorry, I'm probably totally massacring your name, Kavatha-san. And will this makerspace be set up in the U.S., Portland? So we are a makerspace that's existed in Portland, Oregon for the last 2.5 years, and we're advising people all over the world at this point about setting up things in their communities as well. Was that question directed at us or in general about the ones that have been talked about being set up elsewhere?
Yeah, because we're here to share what we've learned in Portland. Like Mike said, we've been going almost 3 years. And Princess Aaliyah approached us because she's interested in starting makerspaces all over the world that are kind of directly related to and serving the Wildlife Conservation UAV Challenge. So I think she really saw what we were doing here as a way to complement her vision for addressing problems around the world and actually having physical spaces filled with all of these resources to help people along the way. So giving that space where people can come together, and so that it really is about local communities around the world, kind of assessing, what they need, what their community needs. Are they trying to create jobs? Are they trying to address challenges like these wildlife challenges? Are there other issues? Are they just wanting to have a place to come together and meet and share ideas? All of those questions will determine how much space you need, how much space you need, what tools you need, what kind of programming you'd want to put on top of that space, and then therefore how much money it's going to take and how many staff you're going to need to have on board. So it really is, we really want to help people assess, in planning terms, which is kind of my background, we call it asset mapping. Looking at what already exists in your community, who's already doing bits and pieces of this, and the temptation is to just try to plow forward and recreate the wheel. And we actually get people from around Portland saying that they want to create an ADX, and we keep saying, we already exist. We're here, so come join us and help us be part of the movement to take this to other places around our region, around the state, around our country, and then around the world. So it's really easy to want to try to recreate the wheel, but we've learned so much, and that's why we wanted to do these webinars, is so that we could share that with you and help you more with the process of, step by step, how you get one of these off the ground, so you can build a really strong foundation and have the space in whatever form it is, really be a resource for the community.
Kelley, thank you so much. I do want to add, for the people that asked about this, one of the things that we're doing for the Wildlife Conservation UAV challenges, we're actually going to be setting up a makerspace in Port Elizabeth for the final competition, so that way, as the teams travel for the finals to Amakawa, one of the things that could possibly happen is electrical problems, something can break, and that's when you'll actually really be able to appreciate the value of what makerspaces bring. And our goal is to leave that with Port Elizabeth as a community property. So anytime we have any challenge that we do anywhere around the world, our goal would be to set up a makerspace for that particular competition. But as we leave that location, it becomes a community property. And Gert, that was on earlier, he is actually taking the initiative to set up a makerspace in Port Elizabeth. So we will be working with Gert. But from the teams, if there's anybody that's interested in setting something up in your own communities, please, feel free to shoot me an email, and then we can work together, and I'll talk to Mike and Kelley about it and see how we can help you get started in the location that you're in. So these are locations all over the world that we'd like to do. And what I'd like to do through the challenge is make it a network where anybody that sets up can tap into our network and find help anywhere else in the world through that channel. So our goal is ultimately to bring a network of makerspaces all over the world together to be solving their own community problems, but also working together on these great opportunities of solving international problems. Wildlife is one, but there's several other problems that big corporations and companies can't do. And that's one of the reasons why I focused on starting the challenge with a Wildlife Conservation UAV challenge, was because there are no anti-poaching drones that were made specifically for counter poaching. So sorry, I just wanted to bring that in real quick. All yours.
Great. Yeah. So we're getting some reports of some static and feedback. So any of the presenters, if you're not on mute, you try and be. And then I'm going to tilt this guy just so our sound isn't also beaming into the microphone. And I'm going to work together with Kelley to put her gloves underneath the computer to hopefully reduce any static. Is that getting any better?
Yeah, a little better.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
So Tom from Makerversity in London. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
I have been listening on the phone, but now on your computer. Cool. Hopefully, let us know if it's not getting better.
So Tom, do you want to, before we jump in, actually, Tom, can I unmute you really quickly and you can say hi? So on here joining us is Tom from Makerversity in London, who is excitingly moving to Portland. And I'm going to see if I can unmute him here. Tom, I'd like to introduce you to Mike Aubrey from Autodesk and Princess Aaliyah. And Princess Aaliyah and Mike, I'd like to introduce you to Tom if you haven't already met him, Mike. Tom is the person also talking to people in Cape Town, South Africa, about starting a makerspace. And Tom, do you have anything to say about like things that you've learned, or the difference in the makersity model, or anything else you'd like to share with folks on the meeting?
Yeah, we've been working on our trademark and our science equipment, putting applications to trademark science.
It's kind of hard to hear you, Tom.
Button, we're waiting for the actual button to be designed, so we can get to that. And our paper dissolve also.
Can anybody hear Tom?
Um,
Anybody? No? All right.
that's
That's Tom, everybody. Pop us a note, Tom, if we can get you on the line.
So there's a question here. Well, hey, Kavi, that makes it a little easier. Thank you. ADX, how is ADX financed? Such a great question. I was actually thinking that might come up. So basically, I leveraged everything that I own in my life to start the space. And I basically did it through a loan, a personal loan to myself. So I am 100% invested in the space. And we are in the process of getting more funding in through our partners, really around this workforce training issue. So we've realized that in our community, the big need is that manufacturers can't find a talent base, a skilled workforce to keep our manufacturing sector thriving here. And so we are developing a curriculum around workforce training that's really project-based learning, collaborative learning. And so, the partners that we're bringing around the table are going to start providing resources really into a scholarship fund that would then allow us to help bring students into the space. For those of you not familiar with the American education system, it is epically failing, and funding is a huge issue. The way we teach kids, how we are engaging youth in, in the process of learning, it's just really, it's not engaging, and it's really abstract, and it's hard for them to understand, why they're learning fractions, for example. But you hand them a tape measure, and all of a sudden it becomes really apparent why you might want to learn fractions. So. So that's really exciting for us, but like any business, because we are set up as a business, as an LLC, I use the resources that I had to get started. That being said, I obviously, although I might look like a very rich, wealthy woman, I am not. So I really bootstrapped it, and one of the things that I've felt like ADX has done differently than other spaces around the country is really, kind of keep the costs realistic. And we didn't try to dump millions of dollars into making this space. We've allowed it to evolve over time. We've kept the business model very adaptable, and that's easy to do with our LLC structure. So not sure what the equivalent is of that in your community, but it's definitely something that's allowed us to make decisions quickly. I don't have to go to a board of advisors. If somebody comes to me with an idea and it sounds like it's something we want to do, then we try it. So there's like these little experiments that we do and that we test. And when I brought Mike on last year, he actually is formalizing kind of all the process around this and all the systems around it. So it's also very critical to kind of document what's really working and what's not, so that you can kind of move on and keep growing.
And I think if I could piggyback on that too, I've got pulled up on the screen kind of one of my favorite things here, again, is on the screen here is ADX2, which was actually designed by a student here who came to learn about manufacturing, an architecture student, and fabrication, and ended up as her senior thesis for her master's redesigning ADX, and I'm kind of panning through it, how we fit into the community. It's got a larger scale, I think it's 40,000 square feet designed out. That's actually all stuff we already have to some degree in here. This is just a bigger version of it. And I just kind of wanted to show that from Kelley's initial bootstrap vision of this place where she was just dropping her personal money in, and kind of figuring this all out. We're in discussions about really taking this here to the next level now that we've taken a long, hard look at what does and does not work for us in our community. And I'm going to pull up on contrast here is our existing floor plan, which is much smaller, as you can see. It's about 12,000 square feet, and that's wood shop, metal shop. This green area is kind of our loading bay and event space. And you can see that the wood shop in the upper left and the metal shop is over here on the right, and the bridge, our electronics lab, is down here in this box. But the vast majority of our space is actually either rented out to small businesses who want to also work out of our community and share tools, or flex space for all different things to happen, because we found a big need for flexible space in our work, in that so much goes on here that the space needs to be self-adaptive to whether people are building a big series of tables, or we've got the next night that all gets cleared out and we've got a robotics group meeting up, and 30 people will be on the factory floor showing off their projects and teaching each other. I think that that's important to keep in mind, because that may not work as the right model everywhere. I know we're talking to Lee a lot about what does a makerspace look like in when we start one up for the challenge, right? What needs does that need to serve in the community? What issues is it trying to address? Because it's like anything. So whether you're forming as a for-profit, a nonprofit, a community group, whatever structure, it still needs to have a market that it's addressing and a need that it's addressing, or it won't be utilized and it won't attract a community and it won't be sustained. Because I think the takeaway that I've gotten from this is that it's not easy to start one of these, but the hardest part is that after your initial opening and the big excitement is the sustaining it. Because it's like any kind of relationship. It's just with a lot of people. It's like whatever it looks like needs to have some sort of driving force behind it, and some sort of plan behind keeping it going. And that's always been the really hard part for us, is that, like, you know, on the day-to-day of just like, how does this place function? What needs is it serving? How do we keep our membership rate up? How do I keep our classes filled? And how do we keep it also being fun and awesome all at the same time? And I think that's the challenge that I think for those of you who joined us right at the beginning we're hearing, is that a lot of these places open and a lot of them disappear after a year or two, because people hadn't quite addressed the need in the community, or the demand wasn't great enough, or they hadn't quite just figured out the right way to structure it. And that's the thing that is, I think, really important to keep in mind, because this is something fun, exciting, undefined, and adaptable that can be very well adapted to meet a lot of needs in a way that many things in the world don't, in terms of sharing and collaboration. But like anything else, that unless you're putting the work in to maintain the machine itself, it's going to fall apart. And that's the thing that we've discovered has been really difficult in a model where there is no instruction manual for maintaining the machine.
Yeah, and there's some questions coming up around just the way that we're teaching kids and engaging people, and how to get people to understand. So one of the big things that we've realized is that inviting everyone from your community. So one of the things that really helped us is, I've lived in Portland for over 20 years. I know a lot of people in different sectors, so in government, in business, in kind of nonprofit, the nonprofit world. And so inviting all of those people that you know to come and experience the space. You may not know exactly what your partnership looks like, but you show them around, you show them, we even did this before we opened. So we had our 10,000 square foot warehouse was completely empty, except for maybe a couple tools. And we just put signs up around that said, this is what's going to be in the wood shop, and this is what's going to be in the metal shop, and here's the list of tools, and here's how we're going to use this space. And we just got students and designers and government officials and everyone into the space, looking at it and responding to it and saying, what's missing? What do you like? What feels weird? What kind of programming would you want to see here? What classes do you want to take? Why would you be a member? And really trying to that kind of, again, that idea of asset mapping, getting that feedback from people, and then now that we're open, I mean, we've probably had 75,000 people from around the world come through our space since we've opened, and that is really exciting for us, and it really helps us see what people are interested in, what questions they have, and then here locally, really engaging the decision makers in the space, and kind of the folks working on economic development and education, and it's really that kind of collaborative model, and really, we are a business, but we're not in that like competitive mode. We really want to engage as many people as possible with the space, help grow the movement, and be a part of that. So I guess, Gert, I would just recommend, it's just patience and keep engaging with people and showing them. This design challenge gives us a good way to show people what we mean by combining technology and fabrication. That a lot of people don't understand what that looks like. So it's giving people examples, showing people, the words that you're using don't always, translate in somebody else's mind. And, again, makerspace is one of those words. Everyone wants to do it, but nobody knows what it is. So, which is great, and that's why we're here. So if you have other questions about, what it is that we, if you have specific questions about the space, there might be some questions out there about liability. I don't know if that only comes up in the U.S. or.
Yeah, let's just stay away from that one. That's going to have to be something that just anybody looking to start something needs to know, that the liability and insurance are a huge part of these.
Well, and I would just say, kind of from the softer side, not the legal side. So we have shop oversight. The entire facility, there's always somebody on staff who is on site. We have a team of people that we've trained who know how to use the tools and can tell if somebody's using the tools unsafely. Everyone who joins the space has to go through a safety orientation. So it's an hour-long safety orientation. It just orients you to the different tools. If you don't know how to use the tools, then we offer classes, and then they pay for those classes to learn how to use the tools. So it's just one of those things around, having enough people around and engaged in the space, and once you start building that culture of safety and kind of caring for one another, then your liability concerns start to go way down.
Yeah.
See, our URL is in there.
Yeah.
What other? I wrote down some other things.
One thing that's kind of I think just another example of so we initially sort of conceptualized this go-to meeting as a how to start a makerspace, and one thing that we've always wanted to talk about, and I think a lot of interest in, is how do you get people to work together? To repeat what something we said at the beginning of the call, the people are the most important part of the space. The tools are secondary. I think one of the cool things about this, and that Autodesk gets, which is why they're on this call with us and in our space, is a giant, premier software company in our little space. And I think the thing that Princess Aaliyah gets is that there's something very different about this model, and whatever iteration it takes, is that, like, through the act of doing something very very traditional and natural, which is sharing, and that's tools, space, knowledge, people get together, and when you trust them and enable each other, we do incredible things. I mean, not to plug the home team, but we've got a UAV team in ADX, for example, and these are people with incredibly diverse skill sets from diverse backgrounds. We've got people with virtually no aerospace or electrical engineering design participating at an equal level with everybody else in the team, in designing and building something that virtually no one on the team had built before. which are unmanned drones with like optical recognition software that are automated and smart things that can fly themselves. I mean, people just came together, and through just knowing people in the community with this stuff, we were able to introduce people and work together to build multiple teams over time, and like sort of an initial challenge, and then this sort of final combined team of about a dozen that's launched out of there since then, and they're doing things that are incredible with technologies that they've never worked with before, most of them on the team, and learning from each other and doing it. And I know there's teams all over the world that are doing amazing things, and it's awesome to see how our community was able to kind of band together and use the resources in the building, and one of our best resources, which is knowing all the people outside the building and where other tools and knowledge exist, and kind of bring it together in one space. Mike, Aubrey, I don't know if you have anything you want to say or anything to add to that in terms of, I'm unmuting you, just your experience here as a partner of ADX, and how you've seen this come together as both as a team member and as an initial facilitator of the project itself.
I'll address that in two parts. As a business partner, ADX has been indispensable for helping us get our word out and wanting to be indispensable in the design community. It's been an amazingly symbiotic relationship. I mean, we've been able to partner with ADX and provide resources, design software, and in turn they've provided us, I guess mostly, legitimacy in our commitment to the design world. And then also on a secondary thing, stories from this stuff. So our ability to be successful has been in this realm is very much continued with our ability to support the local makerspace here in our area. We say as a participant, ADX has been indispensable in our success by providing the ability to come together as a group, meaning the actual physical space that means something. They've also been indispensable in providing the know-how to allow us to basically do better than who we are. By providing both the resources, the wood shop, I mean, access to the computers, but then also to Seamus in the shop. I mean, Brad, who's on my team, he's also part of ADX. I mean, that's been something we would have never been able to accomplish what we could had we not had this central space. So I would say to anybody involved in this challenge, an open source challenge, which is trying to solve world problems, if we expect as a global community to do well with these types of other challenges that are affecting the world, to not go forward and invest in makerspaces like this in all these communities is really a very short-sighted venture. I view ADX as being a heavy part of both success, and I am very glad to be partnered with them.
Can I actually add something?
I hope you heard half that.
Can I add something to that? Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Could you guys hear anything I said?
Yeah, it was amazing. I was writing down, I was
Oh.
taking notes vigorously.
It's going into our marketing materials.
No, but
Love you guys.
Mike has really been one of the key players, I think, in bringing this relationship together from Portland and wcUAVc. It's interesting. I think it was like the first week of January. Somehow I stumbled across a video that Mike and ADX and Autodesk had put together for a mini challenge that occurred at ADX in December, which I had no idea about. But I was so impressed that these guys were really clever to take these two different teams and have a mini challenge at their facility for a week, I think, maybe 2 weeks, and video it. They have a nice video outlining how they did stuff, and I think that would be great to share with our teams to see how that really impressed me. And then I reached out to Mike, and I'm like, wow, I don't see your team in the challenge, but I see that you guys did have this mini challenge in Portland, and I would really be thrilled and honored to speak to you and see if we can work together. So it was really exciting for me to see that you guys on your own, completely on your own, became creative and took the initiative to put together this challenge. I mean, it was great marketing, I think, for us at wcUAVc as well, because I think there were a lot of other people that probably saw your video and your announcements that went out and how you're creating this little mini challenge in Portland, but your overall goal is to solve a much bigger international problem of poaching in South Africa. So to me, I was so impressed and so thrilled with that. And I do want to say thank you to Mike Aubrey and Mike Alfoni and Kelley and all of the teams that participated in that particular challenge as well. So thank you so much for putting that together.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Mike, can you, sorry, I'm muted you again, Mike. We're getting feedback and static reports again. And thank you, Princess Leah, again, for the shout out and the opportunity to do this. Mike, can you post in, the link to the video the Princess was talking about our initial challenge that you made? Thank you. And we got a question from Dan Smith on elaborating about how many people are participating in ADX. And I'll answer that. And then otherwise, do you want to just open it up to questions and see what people have left?
Yeah, I think I can't tell what time it is, but yeah, get your questions to us for sure. And yeah, why don't you go ahead and elaborate, and then we can do some wrapping up.
So the question was how many folks are participating at ADX, and there's some numbers that are easy to talk about, and some numbers that are more important that I can't actually put a number to. So the easy answer is we have about 30 to 35 people, from graphic designers renting desks to web designers and people who write for a living to people who rent 10 by 10 foot or 10 by 20 foot floor spaces to run their bicycle building startup or a boat building school. There's about 30 to 35 people renting some sort of space at ADX at any given time. And we do a lot of business incubation here, to some degree semi-formally, but just like by giving people access to, you know, $500,000 worth of tools and a huge community of smart people who know how to get them business insurance or a website built or whatever skills they don't have, are doing it here. In addition, we generally fluctuate a lot seasonally, although it's starting to smooth out as we learn how to do this better. But I would say we lowball 120 and high-end 180 members at any given time who have access to the shop. Beyond that, though, is the really interesting part to me is the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who have been members, who often come back once or twice a year to become members again as they have projects, hundreds of people taking classes every year, and all of our community partners. So we partner with local groups such as the Woodworking Supply Store, or there's a group of people here who like building tiny houses who we're partnered with, who come here and do their meetups and run trainings. The Southeast Community Uplift is a neighborhood group that works together to design out and build cool stuff like community gardens in their neighborhoods, and we're partnered with them. So our space is very important, and the people within it are very important. But the community impact and our interactions with the community at large are, you know, immeasurable, and that's how we really try and amplify what we do and what people do here, more importantly. So measuring the level of participation is really difficult, because I can quantify the people that are paying a monthly membership or renting space. I can sort of quantify the number of people that we've ever had into the space. The amount of people who are participating or taking skills back from here and bringing them back to their community group or their shop or whatever, I mean, it's a ton. So, Dan, does that answer your question a little bit better, I hope?
Yeah, I call the people that Mike identified, the numbers. They're kind of the core, you know, like the heart of the community. They're here on a very regular basis, and then there's so many people that come and go. So that's the thing that we're doing is kind of slowly building that core, and it's really important that those people be the right people. You know, it's people who, you know, will respect the space, take care of the space, take care of the tools, take care of each other. And there's definitely a weeding out process that some people go through, because some people, I think, realize that they don't really like to work together. They'd rather just go work by themselves somewhere, and that's totally fine. But what we're really looking for is people who get inspired by other people and who want to learn from other people and engage with other people in kind of a positive, productive way.
This also, by on the screen right now, is one of my favorite projects. Is there's a local gaming store who for those of you who are Star Wars fans, we encased him in carbonite in the life cast and put a bunch of blinking Arduino powered LED lights in it. This is us showing it off at a maker fair at the local Science and Industry Museum. So a lot of different things happen here.
Yeah, I have to say, like, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. You know, it's really interesting what happens after a few years of doing this. Is people start working on their own projects, and this kind of stuff starts happening. The drone challenge, I would have never predicted that we would be engaged with, a worldwide challenge, and that's incredible. This is a project that a couple of our members made. It's a little teardrop trailer. So they're avid travelers, and they wanted something to hook up to their little Mini Cooper. So they had no idea what they were doing. They've never done it before, and that's the thing that I just get so impressed by, is people just jumping in and trying it, and not being afraid to just do it and kind of learn along the way. So yeah, this is the carbonite, some of the carbonite process. So that's the other thing that's really exciting for me, is to really engage people in the process of how things are made. You get so much more respect for objects and things that are made. We've become such a, mass production, make a bunch of stuff, somewhere else out of sight, and then it ends up in our landfills. And so bringing some consciousness to the process of how things are made, I hope gives people a bigger appreciation for that, and then therefore helps them understand why handcrafted items made by people might be more expensive than the stuff you can get at IKEA or one of the other large stores. So, and that people can learn how to do it themselves. So if you see a bookshelf that you like, you can come here and learn how to make it, and you'll probably keep it forever because you did it. So that's another interesting angle just on, that is a huge problem for us globally, the amount of waste that we produce through our consumption. So we definitely see people getting a little bit more enlightened by, wow, I didn't realize how complicated this was and how long it was going to take to actually make stuff. And these are great photos. Oh, thanks.
Thanks, Tiff.
That's the other thing. We have talented photographers coming in and out of the space all the time. So it's been a challenge for us to document this, and we're so glad that we do have the photos that we have. But it represents probably 1/1000th of what's happened here since we've opened. So that documentation of what you're doing is really important. So I would think about that as people start to look at building their spaces, is try to have that AV team on hand to document the things that are happening in your space, so that you can then share them in this format with others around the world.
So, Aaliyah, is there anything else you'd like us to cover, or do folks have questions they want to pop in the queue?
Well, I think it would be great if we had our South African director come online and talk about it from his perspective in Amakala, and how beneficial this will be for the actual final competition, because I think he'll be much better at explaining that this is a remote private game reserve that we're going to be at, and having this facility is just going to take the challenge to another level for the teams, because we know that the teams are going to be working really hard to bring this technology all the way to South Africa, and we would love to make sure that they're able to still compete in the challenge, and we don't want any minor abilities in their travel of the actual UAV products to cause any issues. So that's why the makerspace at the final competition will be very important. But LB, are you there?
Gert, can you make Gert live?
Unmuted Gert, is that everything?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi.
Good. Good, yeah. Listen, it's very important for us over here, and I guess for everyone else to understand, once we get into the bushveld, as we call it, we need these entrants to be able to participate, which is why I've been pushing so hard to help get a temporary makerspace up. And part of it is there's so many smart people participating in this competition and helping out. We're hoping that we can leverage the knowledge of those people who are helping out, so that we leave a little bit of innovation and forward thinking behind to the people here in South Africa. So that's really the big impact that we're hoping for. what we learned from the first challenge will be great, but the impact down the road of where we go and the innovative thinking is so much greater, and that's what we're excited about.
Thanks, LB. I think it was important. I actually just turned off my webcam.
That's unmute myself. So, you know.
Sorry.
Are you there?
Yeah, she just turned off her webcam.
Oh, okay.
Sweet. Yeah, and I think one thing to keep in mind is, you know, I was looking at some initial mock-ups of the space that you're looking at, and my gut reaction was that I think the initial drawings you had of it, Scott, were that I've seen on your website were cool. They're a great use of small space. Did notice a lack of functionality for cutting for non-metal stuff, so things like a shop side or a worksite size table saw or hot foam cutters would be really handy to have on hand in any kind of space that's going to be flexible. And maybe something larger and more sustainable than a worksite table saw, especially if it's going to remain in the community, because I think especially in a space like that, you want to not only utilize space well, but keep the machines to be the most flexible, easily maintained ones that you possibly can. And so basic but highly adaptable tools like table saws that can cut wood, that can cut foam, that can cut plastic, I think are all excellent things to consider having in any space that needs to be adaptable and easily maintained. Especially for something like this, for the initial challenge where people are going to be working with a lot of different diverse materials.
Yeah, and I think one of my questions would be, so because you're kind of in a more rural setting, the community of people that live there, are there ways that this kind of space can serve them kind of beyond the challenge, so that you're building it for the drone, for the challenge, probably for some ongoing access to the space for that project specifically, but it would be interesting to know kind of what the other community needs are, so that, you know, kind of long term it's there to engage with the local people. And I don't know how many people are there locally, and maybe you can give some background, and we can kind of use you as a case study to talk about, you know, what this looks like. Is he still on?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. So the plan would be this. The game reserve that the private reserve where we're headquartered is about 45 minutes from Port Elizabeth. When we're finished with the challenge and everyone's returned home, then we'll move the equipment into Port Elizabeth.
Okay.
And that'll give us universities in the local area, as well as basically an urban environment where we hope to then, you know, build the makerspace from there. But the temporary site will be at Amakala just for accessibility for the team members, and then the equipment will be moved back, and we'll actually stand the permanent makerspace up in the town of Port Elizabeth.
So I'd say one thing to be, you know, and I think Kelley and I both have a fairly robust background in environmental planning and like social use of space beyond even our in prior lives of makerspaces. The one thing I think that you really want to consider in this too, and I'm sure you guys have, but is not just the equipment and where it goes after the challenge, because turns out, as I'm sure you know, plunking a bunch of tools in a room is not going to do a whole lot. Really interfacing, ensuring that if it's not going to be maintained by you directly over time, that there is a plan of people who are responsible leaders in a community who are able to bring people together around that sort of stuff to keep and maintain a collaborative space is just important as any kind of tooling that can be left behind, because it turns out that it's not, again, you know, the tools aren't that hard to get, and the number that you need, they don't need to be the highest, bestest, newest thing. I mean, we don't have very modern machines here, and it's fine. But what we do have is people who maintain them, people who maintain each other and keep each other safe and ensure that things aren't breaking and we're doing preventative maintenance, and that there's a plan of action for the next, you know, year in terms of like replacements or things that we know we're going to need. And then we're checking on these things, and when they do break, we want to make sure we have manuals for everything to make sure we know how to fix them.
Yeah, and that would be, I mean, one of my questions would be, you know, what are kind of the big issues that Port Elizabeth is facing as a community? Is there certain certain job sector, certain environmental issues, kind of what, and this is again why it wouldn't make any sense for me to start a makerspace in Port Elizabeth. So you like giving us a little 101 on what the issues are in Port Elizabeth. Is that something that?
Yeah, and your points are well noted. In fact, one of our people who will be heading up the makerspace is online here. Garrett's online, or he was earlier. I saw him say hello to everyone. So the idea is we're trying to get the community involved, and then what we'll hope to do is some workshops while the UAV Challenge folks are out, so we can kind of invigorate even more there. But very, very duly noted that it's the people that are important. And I could talk all day about the challenges we have here in Port Elizabeth, but I think it's probably for a better setting. I certainly will take all your inputs, though, and get you some answers on that stuff over the upcoming days.
Yeah, because I think just to summarize, some of the things that we did in the beginning was that asset mapping. What's already out there? How are people already working together? We have a lot of cooperative wood shops, a lot of cooperative metal shops. People join forces who are building motorcycles, bicycles, but they're kind of siloed into those. Groups of architects forming a collective, groups of photographers. So really what we determined was our niche was bringing all of those together in one space. What happens when you bring those different disciplines together? There was already a photography studio that was teaching classes and had equipment, so we didn't include that in our programming, and we partnered with them instead. Ceramics, glass. So we're not trying to be like the Costco of our community. We're trying to be really heavily networked and fill a niche. And the niche that we're serving is bringing people together, teaching them how to work together, teaching them how to use these tools. And many of our members have graduated and gone into their own spaces, started their own collectives, started their own fab houses. Their businesses have grown out of the space because they've been so successful. So anyway, that asset mapping, identifying the challenges in your community and the things that you'd really like this space to be part of solving those problems, and then engaging anyone and everyone you know in that conversation. So I would say those are probably kind of the top 3 things to do before investing in a building and a bunch of tools and all of that other stuff, is really understand the lay of the land, because this, again, the size of your space, the tooling, your programming will all evolve out of that process. So hopefully that helps kind of summarize some things. Any other questions out there?
If you have questions, throw them in the questions pane, or raise your hand, or any of the other weird things. So the thing is, I'm so used to working with people in person now, I'm having trouble interfacing with technology. I think Princess Aaliyah noticed this with my my lackluster email response time. So running around a shop trying to work with people all day, and then I get to my inbox and I'm like, oh my god, I have responses to 5,000 people.
Yeah, that's okay, but I'm still thrilled to be partnered with ADX. You guys are doing a great, fantastic job, and I think together we'll really be able to set up some maker spaces around the world. And actually, we're going to be going into a Skype call in a small remote village in Kenya within the next couple of weeks. And part of that is, how do you take technology and incorporate it into communities as well? So a lot of these people have no idea at all about this types of technology. I'm sorry, I think there's static that I hear. Okay, they're better. But part of that whole initiative with our friend in Kenya is to allow these people in these rural areas to understand that, you know what, you can have a community like ADX. It doesn't have to be completely tech savvy or focused, but it could be a community where you can focus on beadwork that allows them to be able to sell their products into the market. It could be clay, making these little potteries, even if it's for their own homes and stuff. How do you solve the problem of, if you're living in the wilderness and living with these wild animals, how do you make a good fence? So one of the things we're looking at is setting up a community makerspace for them where maybe 7 or 8 different villages can come in and learn from each other and work with each other in this space that now provides a place for all of them to share their knowledge and information and solve problems that perhaps one village has already done but another has not. And then looking at technology as, hey, this can really make a difference for us. They might not be creating drones, but maybe we could use the drones that are used for wildlife protection to actually help them deliver their products to the city, where we can actually have a location where somebody gets that package and is able to ship it off to somewhere else in the world. And now these products are being sold all over the world, all because it started from a tiny little makerspace somewhere in a rural village of Kenya. I mean, that's just an example, but I think it's so powerful and it's so empowering for the people that are actually living these communities to understand that, hey, you know what? We can actually create stuff for ourselves. We could solve our own problems. And that gives them the respect and the dignity that they also want to feel instead of just aid that a lot of big organizations or countries provide in these poor areas. They want to be able to live and solve their own problems as well. And it's interesting, I saw this documentary about this guy at MIT, and he found out about some kids in Sierra Leone who was picking up little electrical pieces and putting them together and making stuff and a radio and all these things. And he sponsored this kid to come to MIT. And one of the things that he said, which made me or left an impression for me, was, look, I wish that countries or organizations wouldn't just give us aid. They would actually help us be able to solve our own problems. And for me, that was so inspiring. Once again, it's because I already have this vision of being able to do this around the world. But now we also hear from somebody else that's doing the same thing and from Sierra Leone, getting his PhD at MIT. I mean, that's impressive. I'm actually going to get in touch with him soon and hopefully bring him on board. So maybe we could start something in Sierra Leone for them as well. So it's all about networking, like Kelley said, and knowing the right people and then bringing them in together. Sometimes you want to have partners, sometimes you want to have sponsors, and you have to have your members. But all of these organizations have to come together to complete the entire circle and be able to work together. And that's, I love the fact that that's your slogan, working together. Yes, it is difficult for some people to work together, and others want to just work alone. And I think when you are around people that you can trust and people that are really there to help you grow and learn, I think it changes the perspective of working together as well. So I think I'm hoping through our webinars with our teams all over the world and us doing these different webinars and different topics will help them understand it doesn't matter where you are in the world, we can work together. We can solve an international crisis that is occurring right now, whereas these large organizations that have tons and tons of money aren't capable of solving these problems. So, I'm very thankful and grateful to my partners, to our teams and the members that are in those teams, and the sponsors that are sponsoring those teams, and the sponsors that are sponsoring the Wildlife Conservation UAV Challenge. So, I'm really honored to be working with all these individuals from around the world with visions and all these genius minds that are eager to solve and do something really great around the world. So thank you so much, everybody, for being part of the Wildlife Conservation UAV Challenge.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank you
for doing what you're doing, and
yeah,
everybody on the call for their participation in this stuff. This is I think that Kelley and I are the last people on Earth you'd actually want making anything, but we love enabling other people to be able to do it. So.
That's halfway true, but I'm really honored to be part of all of this. Our partnership with Autodesk is really inspiring, and we're hoping to bring other companies in to that partnership model, and to continue to engage with the issues that you care about, Princess Aaliyah, and you're really tuned in to kind of the bigger issues going on in the world, and that's helpful to give us some perspective on the challenges that are out there. And I think one of the things that I really enjoyed hearing you say was just this message to kind of disenfranchised people and youth especially. This is the message that we're really gearing up to help young people understand, is they can take control of their economic destiny. You know, we can, with the right resources and the right partnerships, we can expose these people to opportunities that they otherwise would not be exposed to. And it is going to take this network of people and partners to help kind of get the world going in a better direction. So we're super excited to be part of this. We look forward to future webinars. If people who are listening have more questions, want to hear about it from a different angle, want to invite more people to participate, let us know, and we can continue to develop more webinars that are targeted to specific topics. So definitely feedback is always helpful, so that we know if we're helping answer questions that people have out there.
So I just popped my email out there, but if you guys, anybody needs anything from me or has further follow-up or questions, would also love feedback on this. As you can see, Kelley and I are sitting in front of a whiteboard. I think we're not using it because we're not sure everyone would be able to see it on the GoToMeeting. So we're not much of the web presenters yet.
No
I don't
PowerPoint.
think. But that's because we prefer talking to people face to face a lot of the time, and we're much better in front of a whiteboard. So if you guys can help us do that, or comments on how to do that digitally,
Virtual whiteboards.
yeah, that's kind of how we work together around here. So thanks everybody for their time. Get in touch if you have next steps. And do you, Mike or Aaliyah, do you guys have anything else to add, or is that a wrap?
I think we're good. You guys did a fantastic job. I think this is great, and we'll get into more specifics next time around.
Okay, great.
Great. Yep.
Well, thank you.
Thanks to everybody, and thus ends the webinar.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
The organizer has